For IRS Form 13909, Tax-Exempt Organization Complaint or Referral. So this is the tax form that you might use if you suspect a tax-exempt organization of misdeeds or suspected violations that may go against the tax code. So this is a revised version of the form. It was last updated in November of 2023. Prior to that, it was, I believe, most recently updated in 2016, and there have been quite a few significant changes to the form. So in one respect, the form's a little bit easier because it does group the information fields a little bit more, I guess, clearly. So the top part of the form is the referred organization information. The middle section, you'll provide details of the alleged violation. And at the bottom, you'll put your name and personal information if desired. We'll talk about some of the impacts that might have, particularly for people that might be afraid of or concerned about reprisal or retaliation. So basically, we're going to start by going through this form, and as we do, I'll kind of outline some of the differences between this and the prior version. So in the top part, we're going to give information about the referred organization. So one note from the form instructions, it says that if there's more than one organization involved, then you should list the information for the additional organizations. So if you suspect, if you work at a tax exempt or a nonprofit and they're in collusion with another one, then the form instructions say that you're supposed to enter all of that information, but it's not very clear from reading the form instructions on how to do that. So we'll walk through how we would put the first organization's information in, and then I'll kind of discuss what you might consider doing with second and third iterations. So we'll start with the name of the referred organization. In this case, our hero John Doe is reporting Acme Charitable Solutions, and they're on 1000 Main Street in his hometown. We've got all of this information. The date of referral is the date that you're submitting the form. So in this case, we completed it with today's date as we're recording, except 20 years later. So, and then at the bottom is the employer identification number in case you know it. The thing about most tax-exempt organizations is that you can actually find that information online. So if you don't know it, it would be helpful if you did a little bit of basic research to see if you can pull it up online. If not, then the IRS will have to do that work instead. So, in your goal, if you're completing this form, should be to give the IRS enough information that they can work with, the facts that you've given them and come to their own conclusion. So the less information you're able to give the IRS, the longer it's going to take to get through this. And as a result, the outcome might be less desirable than you want it to be. So if you had to name or list the information for a second organization, I would consider something like putting the name up here. Maybe they're in collusions with Smith Enterprises. I would consider doing something like that. Again, there's no clear-cut way according to the form instructions, but if I were completing this form, this might be something along the lines of how I would do it. And then I would put that information here, right? So in this section, the details of the alleged violation, there used to be guidance on, very specific violations that you could actually just check a box and say, yep, this organization is accused of doing any or all of these types of things. And unfortunately, this form doesn't do that anymore. But if you go to our article, which is on our site, teachmepersonalfinance.com, we've left that original list in there so that you can at least get an idea of how you would conceptualize whatever the misdeed is. And again, most people know the difference between right and wrong, but I left that content in the article so that it'll help you articulate your point, right? So sometimes when you start with a blank slate or a blank piece of paper, it's very hard to put into writing exactly, what violation you're witnessing. So I left that in the article. It might help kind of give you some information on what you're going to complete specifically in here. So in line 8, you would list the name or names of the persons involved. So if this was James Smith, it could be James and let's just say that it's his wife, and you can put directors. Maybe you've suspected this going on since the beginning of the year through it's still going on. And then the dollar amount if you know it. Item 12 is pretty much the area where, again, it's a blank slate, it's open-ended, and the more information you put here, the better off this investigation will be. So instead of going into details and creating an example of my own, I just kind of created some bullet points that you might consider. So what are the relevant facts? Is this some sort of a Ponzi scheme, or, are certain people, creating a profit mechanism out of this nonprofit entity? Like if it was a church, which that's a common offense, and the IRS actually has specific guidance about churches. But let's imagine that the church offers classes, and then you're reporting that these directors are actually skimming profit off of these classes, whatever those classes happen to be. Then you would enter that information here, right? Like abusing their tax-exempt status. I personally saw the directors, taking money, whatever the case is. So you would enter those facts here, but be sure to address, at least when I was in school, we learned what was called the 5 W's. It's not exactly 5 W's here. We don't need the why. We kind of assume that people do things for their own reasons, but the rest of them do apply. So who did what things, when did they do them, where did they do them, and then how did they do them? And you can use multiple sheets. You can type up a memo and attach it as a document. And in fact, the IRS actually asks you to provide supporting documents if they're available. So if you actually have like bank statements or canceled checks, the proverbial smoking guns, if you will, then, those are all things that you can at least allude to, see bank statements and canceled checks made out to James and Ann Smith, right? For example. So if you have providing documents, I would at least make a note and say, supporting documents. There are 12 sheets attached to this form. And then I'd probably go into detail like something like this. And the reason I would do something like this is if you're emailing this, if you are mailing this, if for some reason the documents get, misplaced, then if you at least say there are 12 sheets attached to this form and the IRS agent looks at everything and they only see 8 or 9 documents, then they know that there's something missing and maybe they should contact you to make sure that they've got all the information that you submitted. So you can't fax, or at least the form instructions don't no longer indicate that you can fax this form anymore. So I don't think that there's a chance that a fax doesn't go through all the way, but you can mail it, you can email it. Sometimes attachments get stripped from emails. Sometimes, it can just, loose paper falls out of an envelope and somehow doesn't make it to the auditor's desk. I would just do this as kind of a CYA so that if something's missing, they know to reach out to you to get the missing information. And at the bottom, you'll put your name or information as the submitter. So basically, line 13, we've put in John Doe. He happened to be the treasurer of, whatever we called this, Acme Charitable Solutions. We put his address and then his phone number. So there are a couple of things. If you are concerned about retaliation or retribution, the instructions say that you can put anonymous. And then I would assume that you don't have to put this information here, because of doxing concerns. I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out where someone lives if they put your address. You don't need their name on the form. You could probably look it up in public records or, utility bills and things of that nature. But the other thing that you can do is you can hit X, to say that you might face retaliation or retribution. So for people that are being a whistleblower and you're concerned about that retaliation or retribution, I would consider putting my name and information in here anyway, checking this box. And the reason I would consider that, here are two thoughts. First, if the IRS needs more information to get to the bottom of this, and they don't have your information to reach out and contact you, then their investigation might reach a dead end. So, if you're interested in this investigation going from the beginning all the way to a rightful, proper conclusion, you may consider that. The second thought is that sometimes there are whistleblower rewards, and you can claim those by filing IRS Form 211. You can actually attach your completed IRS Form 211 to this Form 13909 and then submit everything in one package. So if you think you might be eligible for a reward, I haven't seen anything that says you can't get a reward as an anonymous whistleblower, but if you don't put information about yourself, it'll probably be hard for the IRS to figure out where you should go or where that information should go. So there are a couple of notes here at the bottom about your submission and documentation. So there's a mailing address. You can email it to this irs.gov email address. So that's a legitimate government domain. And then just know that when you email your form and any attachments, they're not automatically encrypted. So just keep that in mind. There are more detailed instructions here, but I kind of covered most everything. There are some additional notes in our article, as I mentioned. If this happens to be, the incorrect form, what we'll do is in the show notes we'll put other similar tax forms, links to the resources and articles that we've created about those tax forms. So, anything from reporting tax violations from something that's not necessarily a nonprofit organization. If you're, tax return preparer, mess stuff up. If you think there's a identity theft claim that you're trying to make, there's a lot of times when people might just hit the wrong form. So we'll put links to those in the show notes for reference. We'll also put links in the show notes to the information about IRS Form 211 in case you are interested in learning what goes into qualifying for a whistleblower's reward. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you want to read this article, simply go to teachmepersonalfinance.com, type in IRS Form 13909, and you'll see the article up here. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So, and if you have any questions, comments, or if there's an idea for an upcoming video that you'd like to see done, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.